Hi, my name is Nevin, and I am a founding member as well as guitarist for the band Congregation X. Instead of saying who and what this band is, I thought it might be more interesting to hear that perspective from the people that are in the band. So this is the first in a series of sit-down interviews that I'm doing with everybody in the band. I'm starting with Alexandria Brocato, who is also a founding member, as well as the lead vocalist. Now, during the course of this interview, there may be some questions that I'm not going to ask. You might be curious to know what those answers are. Feel free to put that in the comment section below, and we'll answer those as well. In the meantime, sit back, relax, and enjoy my interview with Alexandria. So when I think about your history in terms of like the bands that you've been in, I know I know that you've been in Congregation X. Before that, you weren't in a band. In fact, when we met, you were fairly new to performing on stage, but you weren't new to singing.
So true.
So let's start there. Can you help me understand how you progressed to that point without actually doing any performing previously?
So the world was ending.
Yes, I remember it well.
Yes. 2020, very jarring for most people. I had always sung ever since I was a small child. I hummed so much as a little kid that they did all kinds of testing on me, thinking I was neurodivergent, and they were right. But it's always been like a fixation of mine to the point where I can remember being in grade school and I would turn on the radio and like record songs on my little cassette recorder that I carry around with me. And I would like rewind parts of songs and sing those parts until I could get the inflection of the artist correct. So all through school, I kind of like fixated on all these different artists that resonated with me, whose voices I just loved. And I would kind of learn to sing in their style. It was because I always wanted to be a singer. And the reason that I wanted to be a singer was because music made me feel like I wasn't alone. I was the weird kid on the playground collecting bugs and crying about random stuff. So just a little bit of a nerdy creative type. Not really fitting in and just having I ended up having like quality friends, but I never had quantity as a kid. Music was the one string that pulled me through everything in my life. And actually, the darkest days I ever had were time periods where I wasn't enjoying or singing music at all, because it's just such a fundamental piece of who I am. And I actually think it's a piece of who a lot of people are.
So talk a little bit about some of those artists that inspired you, and maybe who was the first voice that you heard that resonated with you so much that you were like, I want to do that?
Oh, that's a hard one. Because I feel like I don't have like a clear moment in my head where that necessarily happened. But like it started with the first grade, I got my first CD and it was the biggest deal ever. Britney Spears, who I didn't end up imprinting her voice into my style, but I really loved that album. And then I got Ricky Martin, and Christina Aguilera was actually probably, that might have been the first influential.
She might have been the one?
Yeah, the Genie in a Bottle album. Because she's just incredibly talented. But then it went from that to let's see, they're En Vogue. I went through an En Vogue phase pretty young. Joss Stone was a huge influence. My dad showed me her when I was a teenager. She just, I don't know, she impacted me a lot. Also, she was so young when she first started recording things that I found that inspirational. And I wanted to do that so bad that I psyched myself out of ever pursuing it as a young person. Because anytime I would perceive even a small failure on my part to go in that direction, it would just completely derail me. It was painful in a way that made me just like completely keep it to myself. I did not want to fail because it mattered so much to me. And that was definitely something I struggled with through most of my youth until the world was ending. And then it was kind of like, well, I have nothing left to lose. That sounds really bad. I have nothing to lose in regards to this stuff. I've always had a really lovely life in a lot of ways. I had plenty to lose. But yeah, that just catapulted me into, you know what? You gotta be bad at something in order to get good at it. And performing was an avenue I had never had the confidence to explore. Oh, by the way, the other artist, Evanescence, there was India Arish. I love her. Like, she actually really helped me grow in my values as a young person, and I just love her. There was some Etta James. There was some Aretha Franklin. I definitely went through a Janis Joplin phase. My parents introduced me to a lot of like older music, which like really kind of shaped who I became over time. Oh, Eva Cassidy. She's not super well known in the circles I've been in, but like she amazing. And I don't know, there's just so many. There's so many.
So you mentioned in order to get good at something, you have to be willing to be bad at it, which is always true. Performing is a different skill set than the execution necessary in order to play an instrument or to sing, and finding the balance so that you can do the part that you've been practicing on in front of an audience is definitely a challenge.
Oh, that was a fun challenge. I started out my first performance on stage with my cousin Tegan and my friend Jake, who is also our drummer, because we were the Three Musketeers through the beginning of the plague. I was on stage, and actually it was just her and I that time. We sang, I think, a Billie Eilish song, the Wish You Were Gay song, and the whole time I kept messing up the words and stopping it and giggling, and I was reading it from my phone too, like, and my cousin, she would never brag about it, but she's really talented, so she was able to fill in the gaps for me, luckily. She was also playing the guitar, but yeah, I started there and kind of like worked my way towards not needing to look at lyrics, and then worked towards, like being able to open my eyes on stage, because when I'm nervous, sometimes I close them. And to be honest, it took me probably about a year to not need liquid courage, because I realized that was like holding me back. But like, I really like to tell that story because as an artist who, like, I feel good about what we're doing, and I feel like I worked hard to get here, and I worked with so many other artists like along the way, and had both wonderful and not so wonderful experiences, I learned so much. Like, I feel pretty confident in what we do now. And when people see me and they don't know my story, like, or where I started, and they kind of like are like, "Oh my God, I love your voice. You're so good." Blah blah blah. I'm always so happy, like excited to, especially if they're like a young artist or an artist who's just starting out, to be like, "Yeah, but you should have seen me 4 years ago." Like, and it's not me putting myself down. It's I just I want people to know that they can do it. Like, that it's like it took a while for me to learn how to be on stage and share that part of myself with people in a way that was not really, I don't want to say sloppy, just amateur, like I did not know what I was doing. And my voice was good, I think, to start with, but even so, I was constantly forgetting words. I was like constantly messing up, and I didn't have any original material. And now, like, we're here. Like, on my 30th birthday, you were there. We wrote my first song. So, like, it's not too late, for those who haven't started on this road in their 20s. And music is just this wonderful, infinite well of growing. Like, it's just, you can continuously grow forever, when you pursue it, I think, as long as you don't put a cap on that. That's actually why I stopped drinking, because I felt like it put like a ceiling on what I was able to learn and do as a performer. But yeah, just me personally, like, not judging anybody else. um, but yeah, music is for connection for me. And so,
I see music as being a journey, and it's up to each individual to define what their milestones are going to be along that journey. But the end is set by you in terms of when you want to be done with it. Um, and as long as you're continuing to challenge yourself so that you're growing, it can be a good journey, even though there are going to be times when you're going to fail. Failure isn't necessarily bad because it teaches you if you're open to the fact that you need to learn something.
yes, 100%. I was so petrified of failure as a younger person. And all it took was reframing it. Because it is a teacher, like, 100%. But if you don't see it that way, you can pretty much hold yourself back forever. So, like, you can't get good at anything unless you go in knowing that you're going to make mistakes, and that it might actually serve you well to make those mistakes, because then you'll know how to do better the next time. And that knowledge sticks with you in on a deeper level than if you were to just go in and be perfect at everything, which is not realistic. Because even when it seems like people have gone into something and just are naturally so good at it, oftentimes there was a lot of practice in some way that led up to it. Like, my singing didn't just come to me as my voice is now. Like, it was my whole life. It was like years and years of refining my voice. It was hours and hours, rewinding songs and, like, being like, I want to hit that note and I can't. So I'm going to keep trying and keep practicing until I can. Like that's hours of work. That's many, 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 many hours of work. So, whenever anybody comes to me and they're just like, "Wow, you're just so natural with your voice," I'm just like, "They're muscles," and I just got addicted to working them out, I guess. But like, you can also, you can learn how to sing too. Like, it's not just a me thing. It's not just, it didn't just come out like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, everybody's voice is unique. So there are people that can learn how to sing. They're not going to sound like you, but they can learn the work ethic in order
Yeah.
to sound like the best version of themselves. Let's talk about the night we met. And I know that that was different for you than it was for me. I had seen you perform, and I thought that the quality of your voice was extraordinary. But I didn't say anything for a couple of weeks. I waited. Let's talk about what that was like for you.
You know what's funny is I can't clearly remember whether or not I approached you or you approached me, even though I know you approached me just through us talking about it, because like what stuck out to me was that we had a really great conversation about music and like I don't know, uh, I started just like passionately being like talking about why I love it and the power of music or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but like we had a good conversation and it was a really nice interaction for me. And it didn't seem like you were like you had any ulterior motives than to just tell me I was a nice singer. And I also, you didn't know this, but I also had been seeing you go up and perform with people and thinking that you were just an amazing guitarist, which you are. And so I actually felt complimented by the fact that I got to have a conversation with you and that you liked my voice.
Well, the reason I think that conversation was important is because that was the spark that led to us sitting here right now. If I recall correctly, I didn't think that the performance that I saw was that great, but the quality of the voice was undeniable that it made all of the other stuff unimportant
Wow,
because that's what I focused on.
that's a really nice compliment.
And I can remember the first time that we worked here. I learned that not only did you have a good vocal quality, but if I was to play a chord progression, you could come up with a melody on the spot that worked with it, even though you didn't know music theory or you wouldn't be able to explain to somebody how melodies work. You instinctively know how they work and you could just do it. And that was something that wasn't apparent when I saw you on stage, but when we were here and I saw that, I was like, wow.
I didn't really realize that was unusual at all, to be honest. I'm just vocal stimming all the time. So, like, everything I hear, I can kind of like hum along to. And I think since I grew up with the radio and like listening to see like other artists, I kind of like learned how to harmonize with them so that I could be a part of the song. I guess that's maybe if I knew music theory, like to begin with, I probably would have overthought it. Does that make sense? I think that music theory is awesome, and I actually at times have tried to learn it, and then something happens, and then I forget to go back to it, as an Alexandria does. Uh, but like, and I like respect like people who take the time to understand like the inner workings of music and like the sort of like equations that make a good song because well I just never took the time to do so. I don't really think I was ever in any position growing up where that was like an easily accessible thing that was obvious to me. So,
Music theory is complex. It is accessible. I think that people that don't know it misunderstand the benefits. I've heard it be suggested by some that if they knew music theory, it would negatively impact their creativity, which doesn't make sense to me because it just gives you additional tools,
oh, I
and
hope I didn't.
you can do more if you have more
Yeah.
tools. And when I think about how I use music theory, I don't use music theory to write songs. I write songs by what I hear in my head and then trying to find it under my fingers if I'm writing something on the piano. And then I take what I know about music theory so that I can recreate what I came up with and so that I can explain it to other people. That's how I use music theory. It's more of a way of communicating my ideas to somebody else, or to be able to understand what it is that I did so that I can do it again. But the creative process has nothing to do with music theory. If I come up with a chord voicing that I really like, then I just use what it feels like in order to find the next chord that makes sense to follow the one that I just played, and I'll build an idea based off of that. I'm not thinking about keys or anything like that. In fact, after I've written something, I don't know it. I need to go through a process to actually learn it, to understand, oh, I'm changing keys here because it wasn't an intentional decision. It was just a decision that this sounds really great following that. And maybe the time signature changes, and that's not intentional either. It just happens to be how I heard it and how it sounded to me. So it's very much separate from being creative.
Yeah. Oh, I agree 100%. Also, it's like a whole language that you're able to speak in, and like being able to put labels on things that you are singing, or notes that you are humming, or like melodies that come naturally to you, being able to like understand what exactly just happened and talk about it, like that's an amazing skill set. Like I've definitely learned a lot from working with you about the value of music theory, because there have been many times where I've brought something to you and you've been able to sort of like dissect it in a way that I wouldn't have thought of, and recreate or like add to it in ways that like had to do with so if you go here, it makes sense to go here. Music theory thinking, basically. I didn't want to say something music theory like completely sound ridiculous, but yeah, that was something that added a lot to my experience. And I had worked with a number of different artists. Some knew some music theory and some did not. A lot of the ones I worked with kind of went by feeling, um, but there's definitely a lot that can be added when you understand keys and notes and how they do and don't go together.
Yeah.
Although there's really no wrong note,
No,
right?
and
It's just,
at the end of the day, you don't have to know it in order to be able to create something.
yeah.
And I know a lot of people that I think are incredibly creative that don't know it. It doesn't make it doesn't change that what they make sounds great.
It just makes it harder for them to teach it to somebody else,
Right.
basically.
Another benefit, and I was just thinking about this. I wrote a piano instrumental last year called D, which I I know you've heard before. I don't know if you remember it or not, but I need to perform that coming up in the next month or so. So I have gone back and I'm teaching myself how to play it again because it's a little bit beyond my skill level, even when I originally wrote it. So I had to work really hard in order to play it. But another area where music theory came in handy for me is in teaching myself how to play it. Because instead of guessing where my fingers need to be on the piano, if I know what chord it is, then I'm no longer guessing because I know where my fingers need to be in order to play that chord.
Yeah.
And when I wrote it, I wasn't thinking about chords. I was thinking about sounds and linking them to build in certain places and to come down. But I hadn't really sat down and mapped out what all the chord changes were in the song. So it was more of a muscle memory thing. And over time, you can lose that if you don't practice it. So it's like, where do my fingers need to be in order to get this? And then just by thinking about, okay, well, this is an F minor chord. And I'm like, oh, okay. The next time I went to practice that part, I was thinking, during this section of the song, I need to go to the F minor, and my fingers knew what to do.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I was kind of like guessing.
Muscle memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good thing. Also, it's just side note, isn't it really funny how you can write a song and forget it? Because like I feel like with every song I've written, it's almost like it comes through me and then I have to learn to retain the lyrics that I wrote.
Yeah.
And that's just so it's always struck me as kind of like such a silly thing.
I think initially I thought that was silly too.
Like I wrote the song.
But it makes sense when I think about it from the perspective of just because I wrote something doesn't mean that I've learned it yet. And there are certain things that are part of my process of learning. And if I haven't gone through those, then regardless of the fact that I wrote it, I haven't learned it yet.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I relate to it. That's what I mean.
Let me ask you this. Talk to me about what Congregation X means to you.
I don't think that I could have possibly imagined being in such an incredible band because I don't have a band history, so it's hard to imagine anything like that. And B, like we're such a collaborative group who all bring such a different skill set to the table, and I don't know, like it's just I think I'm blushing. I love my band. Oh, I was, you know what was happening? I was pressuring myself. I was like, I need to say the perfect thing because I really just like admire all of you. And
Do you know what the perfect thing is, though? The perfect thing is what is authentic to you
oh,
about your experience.
well, I started working with you and you turned out to be just like a wonderful person to not only work with but be around. And before that, I had experienced a lot of artists who had ulterior motives working with me or kind of almost felt the transaction almost felt like it exploited me, like it wasn't really about connecting with me, or it was about connecting with me too much and not the music. And when you approached me and we started working together, you're probably the second male human that I've ever just been able to trust and be vulnerable with in a musical sense without it. It was just like pure about that. It was purely about the connection. And I finally found like a safe space. Like I was able to just like let whatever was inside of me out. And we didn't really have any clear expectations, but you kind of stuck through me. You stuck through it with me until we figured out what we wanted, which was a lot of trial and error and me crying and you listening. Thank you so much. But then we started working with other artists and it just sort of snowballed and we kept networking and, you know, we had worked with Justin and I think that's when we officially were like, we're a band.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we did the RPM challenge together and it was kind of like it was a really neat experience. But we also had started creating more music together at that point. And when it didn't work out with him, then other people showed up and were showing interest in working with us. And before I knew it, we had like a group, like we had, and it's funny because most of the people in my group are like interconnected, like they're from different parts of my life, which is completely unexpected. Or like, for example, Jake, he's the reason that I started performing because he was playing his guitar in my living room and he heard me singing in the shower and he was just like, oh my God, you need to do something with that. And he would back me with his guitar. And he was showing up every single week performing himself. So he just made me a part of that routine until I got decent enough at it that people started to notice. And then Josh was actually a friend of a friend in my early 20s who I had no idea he was such a talented artist until like later down the line. And my best friend was like, hey, why don't you work with Josh? I'm like, huh? Joshua. He actually prefers to be called Joshua. And I was like, wow, I haven't heard about him in a while. And he came here and was just like so excited to work with us. And we started like creating stuff immediately. And then Parrish came on board, right? It was Parrish next.
Yeah, Parrish was next.
He met us at an open mic down the street.
Earth Eagle.
Earth Eagle.
Earth Eagle North.
Yep. And he, like, I was so surprised by his interest because when I watched him perform, I was just like, man, this guy's a professional. He knows what he's doing. And like, I remember the first time he performed with us, he jumped on stage with us with, it was a ukulele bass, I think. What was it?
I don't remember the first time. I knew that there were a few, and we had conversations about getting together outside of the context of the open mic, but hadn't really made anything happen.
Yeah.
Until the first time that he came to the Danger Room.
Yeah. Before the first time he came here, I remember him performing with us, and it was just simple. He hopped up with, I think it was a bass uke, I'm pretty sure. I could be mistaken. And it sounded really good, and I actually went to go see him perform in Portsmouth.
That was a Cup of Joe, wasn't it?
Yeah. Because I was very interested in him as an artist. He has like this rawness to him, but he also has like very structured, well put together songs. And when I went and watched him perform, I was like, wow, this guy's amazing. Like he's got multiple talents going on here, and he really knew how to like perform. I guess he has a lot more experience than I ever did. But I was very impressed, and so it was an amazing experience to have him come here and be just as enthusiastic to work with us as we were to work with him. And even more awesome to sort of like watch that the dynamic between the three of us, because at that point, Joshua was doing his own thing for a bit, just sort of like grow, because it like snowballed. And then before I knew it, where did we get the name Congregation X? I think it's because you put us in the calendar as Congregation X for a long time, just as like a filler name.
It was never intended to be a permanent name. For me, the congregation always represented where the majority of us met, because the majority of us met at the Stone Church. And when I performed solo there, which wasn't very often, I always would say Stone Church Congregation as a way of addressing who was ever there. And so I wanted to have the name represent that place, because of what that place has meant to all of us at different times. The X was more of a variable about the future potential of us being an ensemble and going from individual journeys to one journey together. So that's kind of what the name means to me.
Yeah.
And there's definitely been times when I thought that because the people in the band have changed over time, that maybe that name no longer suited us.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But we never came up with something, and now it now kind of stuck, and I kind of feel like that's what it needs to be, because that's what people know us as.
I mean, I also like it represents like the diversity we have in our group, I think, very well, because like we have a metal drummer who has a metal band, Proleon, by the way, and we have, what would you call Parrish? Because I always say like alternative pop piano, but like he can do so much. Like it's just he writes a really well structured, not like pop as in like Britney Spears, but like pop as in like stuff that just radio hit, like would blow up and be popular sort of vibe. Like his songs are just, they're very good. I always call them alternative pop.
I think that is probably a good way to describe it. He's definitely a good songwriter. He has access to many different genres, and you can hear those influences sprinkled into the various pieces that he's written. So that's generally how I describe him.
Yeah, yeah.
And Joshua is more of a classical and jazz influenced
Yeah.
player. And I describe myself as being more rock based, but having some jazz influence in terms of like chord choices, and
Yeah.
some blues influence in terms of soloing. And I describe your voice as being very soulful.
Oh, thank you.
And what we write is a combination of those things blended together.
Yeah. And I don't know, it's so cool because we are all so different. Oh yeah, I didn't mention Alicia Keys earlier, by the way. She was a huge influence. That actually probably was one of the moments in my life where it clicked that I wanted to be on a stage. Just to throw that out there. I just thought of that, which is funny because she was like, that Songs in a Minor album was so influential to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to our current conversation. Yeah, it's that diversity we have. Like, we all come from very different backgrounds and very different music tastes, and we're able to kind of like blend it together into one thing that works really well. And I never quite know what to call us in regards to our genre because of that. So to me, the name Congregation X is a good representation of just the diversity. That really, it feels like it was for a while more a representation of not having anybody that was consistent leave playing with us when it was just mostly you and I. But it's morphed. It's because now it's the five of us, and we're all here, and we're all invested. And I agree with you. I think that it is what it is meant to be or supposed to be now.
I definitely think that the meaning of the X has changed over time.
Yeah.
Because as you mentioned, we've always been the core, and whoever filled out around us wasn't necessarily consistent.
Yeah.
That isn't the case anymore. It's a little overwhelming to me at times, the reaction that we get from the people that like us.
Me too.
It isn't like they like us a little bit. It's
Yeah.
like they really like us. And
Which is an honor.
it is. And in many ways, maybe I downplay the influence that we have. I certainly downplay the influence that I have, because we get together regularly and
This just
we
seems
spend
like
a
a
few
normal
hours working on some stuff, and it's just us. But it becomes something different when we're playing in front of other people. And you know, when I first started playing on the open mic scene, probably around 2017, I used to sit in with a lot of people. You know, sometimes I knew who they were, sometimes I didn't. Sometimes they would ask me to work on an original song that I'd never heard before. Sometimes they wanted to do a cover that I had never played before. And you just sort of work it out. But I always considered myself to be invisible to the audience, because I was just there to support whoever was on stage, because that was their time, and I was just there to add color to that. And then, you know, sometimes people would talk to me about the fact that I was up on stage, and it was almost like an awakening. It's like, oh, you could see me, you could hear what I was doing, because you know, I was just backing
What do
this
you mean?
person
I've
up.
just been hanging out in my back cave over here.
Something that stood out to me is someone approached me once and they said, I see you get up there on stage with different people all the time. I got to ask you, when do you have time to practice with them all?
You don't.
And I was like, I don't practice with any of them. Some of them I don't even know.
I think that's kind of why I like cataloged you in my brain as being super talented, is because you could just hop on stage and play with anybody and people wanted you to play with them. Like, I was just like, that seems professional to me.
I was in a cover band before I started going to open mics, and I'm never really 100% comfortable on stage. For me, music is about the creative process. But I had developed a skill set in terms of my personal performance growth by being in that cover band, and I didn't want to lose that. That's why I started going to the open mics, figuring that eventually I would get into another band, and I didn't want to start over in terms of learning how to perform. So I figured I would exercise that every once in a
Yeah.
while. So that's why I started going to the open mics, but I never really felt like I had much to contribute as a solo artist, because the songs that I wrote required an ensemble and I didn't have one. So being able to sit in with other people was helpful to me, because it allowed me to work on listening skills. It allowed me to be able to work on when to play, when not to play, what to play, and sort of follow the mood of the song, so that I could bring the right level of support without overshadowing somebody else on the stage. And that's kind of why I think I minimize what I do, because when I go up there, even though my motivation for doing it is to get better, but it's really about supporting somebody else, which can be a challenge. So when someone approaches me afterwards about what I've done, you know, I'm just thinking of it through the lens of, well, I'm just trying to make that person sound good.
And yet they're like, oh my God, that solo was amazing.
Yeah.
Because they are. That's kind of nice though, because like, you're not doing it for like vanity, which there's nothing wrong with wanting to be seen. But you're also not doing it from like an egotistical sort of, yeah, I'm the best sort of way, which by the way is like a quick way to stunt your own growth. I think in music and in general. You're doing it from a very human, I would like to grow and connect and support others and like continue to hone in on my skill set sort of angle. And that is probably one of the many reasons that we work very well together. Is because like I know you're super talented and I think you know you're super talented too, but you don't really think about it that way. Like you know you have a skill set, but you think about it in like in terms of what can I be doing next to get to make this even better? Like what can I learn like what's next? What can I learn to improve my skill set? Like
Right.
and so it's like a constant evolution for you because of that mentality, I think. And that's definitely I think I was in a similar boat when you and I first started talking and even more so now. Like I feel confident in what I'm able to do, but for me this is a continuous growing experience. And
Right.
I think it always will be.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not ever going to be the best at anything that I do. Number one, the best is subjective.
So true.
And number two, that isn't even anything that I really care about. I don't think that it's my place to even say whether or not I'm good. I think that people will see me play. They're either going to like me or they're not going to like me, and they can make up their own mind as to what they think. My goal is to just try to be better than the me that existed 24 hours earlier. And if I'm doing things that position me so that I'm growing, that's really all that matters because, I mentioned earlier, this is a journey for me. So I don't have milestones like I need to be the best or I need to write the greatest song. I just want to be able to spend as much time as I can challenging my own creativity. I find that it's more fun to do that in a band than as an individual.
It's so much easier
So,
to express like more. Like you can write stuff on your own, but it's different when you have other perspectives that are pointing out, oh, but what if you tweaked this here? Maybe what let's see how that sounds. Like it creates a more full-bodied experience musically. Like and also having all these different instruments played, like not just through a program on the computer, which you can make it sound amazing through like Studio One, and there's like a lot of resources for somebody who is working solo that are incredibly good. But like, it's a different energy when you're in a room full of people who all have the same goal as you. At like, it kind of gets the creative juice like flowing,
and for me, that translates to the stage. I know that there are performers that really thrive on the energy of the crowd. I'm not one of them. I thrive on the energy of the people that I'm performing with. So when we're on stage and we're reacting in real time and using verbal communication to create something that only exists in that moment, that gets me fired up. And when the energy starts to pick up, I feel like I play better.
yeah. You know, I never actually thought about that, about why, like, what gets me going when I'm on stage. But now that you mention it, like, I think the biggest part of the experience is like the nonverbal communication and the energy that I have with you guys when I'm up there. Even when it was just me and Jake going up there, like, we were reacting to each other the whole time. Yeah, and basically it was just like having a conversation on stage, but you know, like the energy of people watching definitely is impactful to me. Like when you can get a room to silent even for a minute, that's so cool. Like, that's such a great feeling, especially in a bar where they don't have to be quiet if they don't want to,
Right.
you know? It's like the biggest compliment, and it feels well earned when that happens, because of all the practice and time that goes into learning to perform the song. It feels like that feels really good. However, I can, like, when I think about my performing and what I enjoy the most, it is like working with you guys. It's like it's how we're able to just like flow together. Even if I start singing the end of the song in the middle of the song, I know you guys you guys will do your best and adjust to me. um, or if one of you starts playing, the wrong note, like we can usually make it work and
Right.
nobody notices. Like, but it's like an experience that we're having together. And how the crowd reacts is like the icing on the cake. Like that's really
Yeah, I think that the obviously the audience is important, and I don't want to diminish that value by
yeah.
saying that that's not necessarily what drives me while I'm on stage. However, I would say that the benefit is that if I'm feeding off of the energy that's coming from you and that's coming from everybody else that's on the
Mm-hmm.
stage with us, that elevates our performance
Yep.
and that gives the audience the best version of us on stage, which I think is what they are reacting to
Yep.
that makes them enjoy when we perform together. So it all works, every part of it feeds something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important.
I think so too. Also, I think that we're able to do that so authentically, and that's another big part of it is that it's not forced. It's never forced. If it is a little forced, like one of us is feeling off, like then and we're a little out of sync, we usually are able to like recalibrate. Like and I think that our best performances are when we're just like flowing together and being having a very human experience. um, so yeah.
Let's talk about the future. Um, where do you see, or where would you like Congregation X to be in like 3 to 5 years?
Honestly, when I started this, I didn't have any real expectations for the future outside of just getting better at music and working with people that I love working with. Um, playing at open mics and stuff like that. But um, the more that we've grown and the more it feels like there are real possibilities, the more I've opened up to wanting to experience more with you guys. I I had the goal of like if I could just be a well-known local artist, that would be so cool. Um, you know, uh, because for me it is about connection and I don't know, just the area. New England is very special to me, so um, I had no expectations of blowing up and becoming big, huge. But I I actually don't think that I've it's out of the realm of possibility now, if that makes sense. The more that we build traction and um, I don't know, we might actually end up doing a tour sometime. And that's a really neat idea to me. As somebody who only started performing in 2020 with zero expectations, I think that I've grown so much. And a lot of that is because I've been able to work with you and with these amazing people. So I'm pretty much open to making this more of a full-time thing, even though I know we all have to have our day jobs, you know. Gotta pay the bills. It doesn't need to be the thing that pays the bills, but it would be really cool if we could make it just something that is like a weekly, like we have a show a week or something like that. That'd be so amazing.
When we started working together, you would tell me stories about some of the experiences that you had with other people. So it was important to me to make sure that as we were nurturing whatever this was going to be, that I wanted you to be exposed to different possibilities and let you decide whether or not you wanted to head in a particular direction so that you felt like you were in control of your journey and you felt like you were in control of your experience. So when we brought people in, we tried to be mindful of who we brought in. So we were bringing in the right people and we were bringing them in at the right time. I think that as we have evolved, it is sort of driving more so than us because we need to capitalize on certain opportunities, whether we feel 100% ready for that or not as part of the experience. I'm hoping that you still feel that even though our pace is different, that it still works. And I haven't really thought about what I want the future to be, but I know that I'm open to whatever that possibility is. I mean,
Same.
the people that we're currently working with are the people that I want to be traveling with, and if somebody has an idea of something that they wanted to try that's unique that we haven't done before, I'm not going to be the one that says I'm not doing that. You know,
Same.
I want to take it where we think that this needs to go, and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I think you've said what I meant. I just want to see where we go.
Yeah. You know, I want to be intentional,
Yeah.
but
As possibilities open up,
yeah,
you're open to them.
yeah,
It's same. And it's exciting also. Like, and appreciated. Like, it's really neat to be presented with more and more opportunities as you go because it shows that the work you've put in is starting to pay off, whether you expected it to or not. Like, whether the work was put in for a specific intention or just to do the thing, it's still work that you put into cultivating a dynamic and a sound and a quality of music. And it's just really nice to see that recognized through doors opening. You know, like I don't think I'll ever get to a point where I don't feel grateful. Like, I'm grateful for you guys for working with such talented people. That's so fucking cool to me to this day, because it's like we networked that together and separately, by just being the artists that we are. Awesome. Um, and to the people who support us and kind of like go, hey, that's really something. Like, I'm just grateful. I'm really grateful. And any opportunity we have to perform and get paid for it is just that's just nice. Because it's like the mark of, hey, I'm doing this professionally now, which still feels crazy to me. But in a good way. It's like, well, I don't really know. I guess that's it.
Well, you mentioned the people that support us, and they are amazing people. A lot of them travel the path that we're traveling because we see them at open mics, and they're extremely talented.
Yeah.
And it means a lot to me when people that I know, that I admire, that I think are so talented, will come up to us, and they'll be just as excited
Right?
about what we're doing
It's like, what do you mean? You're
as
a rock
we are
star.
about what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think that that speaks to the strength of this community that we were built within,
Yeah.
and you know, knowing that we can look out into the crowd and we can see a lot of the same people, that it was a priority for them to be where we were playing that night. That means the world to me. So I can't say enough good things about the people that support us.
I know,
So
for real. Yeah, definitely. 100%.
one last question to sort of take us out of this segment. Talk to me about a CX song that resonates with you the most.
The most?
Yeah,
They all resonate with me.
that's fair. That's fair.
uh, the most. Well, context is everything. Because, we have Show You, and that's like a love song that is relevant to my life that I wrote and you wrote the music for, and it's still relevant to the person I wrote it for is still, I mean, we just got puppies together. So, like, I still feel that way. 24 Hours is kind of my gratitude song, which that song has only evolved since we became a band. It's gotten better and better. And then, like, the trio is just such a fun performance piece, really. We combined, well, I put Show You in the middle, which, that is a love song I wrote for somebody, but it kind of worked. Where it's in the middle of a song that is like the first song is like a meeting somebody at a coffee shop and kind of like developing a crush over time because you see them a bunch of times and you're like, ooh, what could this be? Like it's very flirty. Then I put Show You in the middle, which is a love song, and kind of like how you feel when you start to like love somebody and like want to take care of their vulnerability and like I don't know. And then the third song is insinuates murder. So and it's very like bluesy, and it's just based off of like a storyline of oh, I met somebody, I fell in love, and they hurt me. You got me fucked up, like. And both the first and the second songs were just written for fun. Like the middle song was written for a person, and I meant it. Like the other two they're like performance pieces. So why can't you know what? I'm sorry. You asked a question, and I started going like this. I don't know which one means the most to me right now.
So the thinking behind all of this is when I think about my behavior in terms of like the YouTube channels that I follow, I'll start following somebody because I'm really into their content. But
Yeah.
after I've started following them for a certain amount of time, I realize that I'm not necessarily following them because of the content anymore. I'm following them because I like them.
Oh gosh.
And so that's what I want to do with our YouTube channel. Right now,
Yeah.
there are a bunch of videos on there that are us performing.
Yeah.
But I want people to get to know who we are as individuals, which is why I am going to be scheduling interviews with everybody in the band. So being authentic and being natural, that is what I want to put up there. That's what I want people to see. That's what attracts me to each one of you, and that's what I want to attract other people to us as an ensemble. So
Okay. So my rambles are accepted here.
Yeah.
Actually, you've always accepted my rambles very well. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Well, I thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk a little bit about Congregation X. It's been an interesting journey, and I think there is so much potential ahead of us in terms of what we write, in terms of where we might perform, and what we could potentially do. So I'm excited to be on this path with you because this wasn't planned.
No.
It just is.
It naturally happened. And that's wild. Like, I feel like people work really hard to form bands, and we just kind of naturally all came together and became something.
Yeah.
Like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity, I think, that I've always been seeking, even if I couldn't have imagined it going exactly this way. So,
Yeah.
and I get to talk to people after I sing. Like, I get to talk to people in the audience and connect with them and, like, share my emotions to a crowd. And to me, that is what I've always wanted to be able to do, is, like, express parts of my human experience for others to hear, and if they can relate to it, know that they're not alone in that experience. And I wouldn't want to do it with any other people now that I have you guys. So, yeah, I'm just very happy.
I am too. I'd like to thank Alexandria for her time. It was certainly nice to sit down and talk with her about how we started, how things have changed, and how that change has influenced our belief in what might be possible. Thanks for watching. And again, this is a series, so I'll be sitting down with somebody else soon. In the meantime, indulge your curiosity in the comments, and we'll see you in the future.